Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand. Most of us overlook it, maybe even toss it aside or leave it sitting in a jar somewhere, but sometimes the smallest coin can hold the biggest secrets. Today we're going to talk about the 2004 Denver minted penny, better known as the 2004 D Lincoln cent. At first glance, it looks like just another copper-plated zinc coin, the kind you probably walked past hundreds of times without ever giving it a second thought. But in the world of coin collectors, history buffs, and treasure hunters, even a coin as common as the 1-cent piece can transform into something legendary, especially when the story of its design, its production, its errors, and its mystique start to add up to something much bigger than its face value. In fact, stories circulate that one rare version of the 2004 D penny could be worth an eye-popping $123 million. Whether you believe that or not, the story of this coin deserves a deep dive. So let's take our time, let's slow down, and let's explore everything about this tiny piece of American history. When you look at the front of the 2004 D penny, you see Abraham Lincoln. This portrait of Lincoln has been on the cent since 1909, originally created by sculptor Victor David Brenner to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth. By 2004, the design was nearly a century old, but it still carried the weight of history every time someone pulled one out of their pocket. Lincoln faces to the right, his profile sharply cut against the smooth field of the coin, with the word Liberty on the left, the date 2004 just ahead of him, and the small D mint mark right under that date. That D stands for Denver, Colorado, the site of one of the United States Mint's most productive facilities. Millions upon millions of coins pour out of that mint every year, and the 2004 D penny was no exception. But here's where things get interesting. Despite being mass-produced, despite being so common, there are tiny variations, microscopic mistakes, and rare accidents that can take an ordinary penny and turn it into something worth more than a mansion. Now let's talk about the physical details. The coin is copper-plated zinc, weighing 2.5 grams. Earlier pennies, like those minted before 1982, were made primarily of copper, but rising copper prices forced a change. Since then, the core of the coin has been zinc, with only a thin plating of copper on the outside. The diameter measures 19.05 millimeters, the thickness about 1.52 millimeters, and the edge is smooth, unlike dimes and quarters that have reeded edges. On the back of the coin, we see the Lincoln Memorial, another familiar design that had been in use since 1959. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can even see a tiny depiction of the statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a detail most people never notice. Above the memorial are the words United States of America, and below it, the denomination, 1 cent. Across the top, the national motto, "In God We Trust," stands tall. To the right of the memorial, you'll often see the initials FG, standing for Frank Gasparo, the chief engraver of the United States Mint who designed the reverse back in the 1950s. But here's where collectors really lean in. A 2004 D penny in average circulated condition is worth just about 1 cent. That's right, nothing more than the face value. In uncirculated condition, maybe a couple of dollars at best. But then there are the rare ones. The ones with double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, or missing plating. A penny that accidentally came out of the press with an error can become a coin collector's dream. Stories have spread about one version of the 2004 D penny being sold, or at least claimed to be worth, an astronomical $123 million. Now, to be realistic, there's no verified auction sale at that number. That claim floats around in viral videos and online rumors, but it hooks people because the idea of a coin you could pull from change turning into a fortune is just irresistible. And while you probably won't find a coin worth 9 figures in your pocket, it is true that rare errors and pristine specimens can sell for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, and that's enough to spark the imagination. Think about the journey of a coin like this. Struck at the Denver Mint, stacked in rolls, sent out to banks, passed through hands in grocery stores, vending machines, cash registers, and maybe even tossed onto the ground where someone bent over to pick it up. How many stories has a single penny lived through? How many people have handled it without realizing they might be holding something special? That's the romance of coin collecting, the idea that hidden treasures circulate right under our noses. And with the 2004 penny, collectors pay special attention to any strange doubling on the words Liberty, on the date, or on Lincoln's eye. They look for off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, making the coin look lopsided. They look for coins struck on the wrong planchet, like when a penny design is accidentally struck on a dime's metal blank. These minting mistakes can catapult the value of a coin from a cent to hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on rarity and condition. The story gets even more fascinating when we consider the psychology behind these values. Why would anyone pay millions, let alone the rumored $123 million, for a penny? The truth is, in most cases, they wouldn't. But stories like that spread because they tap into something deep in all of us, the dream of finding hidden wealth. It's like a modern gold rush, except instead of digging in rivers with pans, people dig through their coin jars, their piggy banks, their pocket change. Every time someone hears about a coin worth a fortune, they start checking their own pennies more carefully, hoping they'll strike it rich. And while the odds are slim, the possibility is real enough to keep collectors motivated. When we focus specifically on 2004, we see that this was not a particularly rare year for Lincoln cents. Billions were struck across Philadelphia and Denver. Yet the Denver Mint mark has its own following. Coins from Denver sometimes show crisper strikes, and sometimes more errors slip through, depending on the dies and the machinery. Collectors always compare coins from the two mints to spot differences. And the thrill of the hunt keeps growing, as stories circulate about certain 2004 pennies fetching surprising prices in private sales or on auction websites. Even if most of them are worth only a cent, just the possibility that one coin could change your life keeps people searching. Now imagine the scene. You're sitting at a coin show, a bustling room filled with collectors, dealers, magnifying glasses, bright lights reflecting off slabs of silver and gold. A small boy walks up to a dealer's table and pulls a penny from his pocket. It's just a 2004 penny, something he found in change. But the dealer picks it up, peers through a loop, and suddenly his eyes widen. He sees a doubling on the lettering, or maybe a rare die clash, something that transforms the coin into a piece of history. He offers the boy hundreds of dollars, maybe even more, for that penny. That's not fantasy, that's the kind of thing that happens in the coin world all the time. And that's what makes even an ordinary 2004 penny so intriguing. Every coin has a story, and every story has layers. To truly understand the 2004 Denver minted penny, we need to step back in time and explore not just the year 2004, not just the Denver Mint, but the entire legacy of the Lincoln cent. Because when you hold a penny like this in your hand, you're not just holding a piece of metal, you're holding the continuation of a tradition that goes back over 100 years, and in some ways, even longer than that. The Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent. It was a bold decision, because up to that point, no actual president had ever been depicted on a circulating U.S. coin. The founders of the nation had resisted that idea, not wanting to imitate monarchies that put kings and queens on coins. But by 1909, Abraham Lincoln had achieved almost mythic status in the American imagination. He was the man who preserved the Union, the man who freed the enslaved, the man whose life was cut short but whose legacy loomed larger with each passing decade. The public wanted to see him honored, and the centennial of his birth provided the perfect moment. That's when Victor David Brenner, an engraver and sculptor, created the portrait that still graces the penny today. Think about that continuity. From 1909 all the way through 2004, with only changes to the reverse design, the same portrait of Lincoln has stared out at us from billions of coins. Every generation of Americans has grown up with it. Children learned to count using pennies. People tossed them into wishing wells. Soldiers in wars carried them in their pockets. Families saved them in jars. And through all those years, Lincoln's face was there, on the smallest denomination, reminding us of history even when we didn't think about it. So by the time the 2004 penny rolled off the presses in Denver, it was not just another coin, It was a continuation of one of the longest-running coin designs in the world. The Denver Mint itself has a storied history. Opened in 1906, it was built in the wake of the Colorado Gold Rush. The building stands as a symbol of the American West, a reminder of the days when prospectors came with dreams of striking it rich. Inside its walls, presses churn out millions of coins every day, including the penny. If you visit Denver, you can take a tour and hear the thunderous sound of the coining presses, the clatter of blanks being fed into machines, the rhythmic stamping of dies striking designs into metal discs. It's a factory of money, and yet every now and then, that factory produces something extraordinary, an error coin, a rarity, a tiny fluke that slips past inspection and becomes the stuff of legend. The 2004 penny, in its rarest forms, belongs to that category. Collectors pay attention to details most of us would never notice. A faint doubling of a letter, the spacing of a date, the way the mint mark is struck. For example, on some 2004 pennies, you might find what looks like a doubled die error. Instead of sharp, clean letters, you'll see a shadow effect, almost like the coin was stamped twice slightly out of alignment. These doubled dies are caused not by the coin being struck twice, but by a misalignment in the creation of the dies themselves, the steel tools that press the design into the blank coins. When a doubled die exists, every coin struck by that die carries the same doubling, making it a collectible variety. Another type of error that collectors chase is the off-center strike. Imagine the blank coin not sitting perfectly under the press. When the die comes down, only part of the design lands on the blank, and the rest spills off the edge, leaving a crescent of blank space on the coin. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin, as long as the date and mint mark are still visible. A 2004 penny with an off-center strike can fetch hundreds of dollars or more, depending on just how dramatic the error is. Then there's the wrong planchet error. Normally, a penny is struck on a copper-plated zinc blank weighing 2.5 grams. But sometimes, through a mix-up at the mint, a penny design is struck on a blank meant for a dime, or even a foreign coin. If you ever hold a 2004 penny that feels too light or too heavy, or that looks silvery instead of coppery, you might be holding a wrong planchet error worth thousands. These coins are like accidents of fate, and they drive collectors wild because they prove that even in a high-tech, tightly controlled mint, mistakes can slip through. And then we come to the great legends, the rumors of astronomical value. The claim that a 2004 penny sold for $123 million is not grounded in reality. No coin auction house has ever recorded such a sale. But the fact that the rumor exists, that it circulates in videos, on social media, in whispered stories among collectors, tells us something important. It tells us that people want to believe in hidden treasures. It tells us that even a coin worth only a cent can inspire dreams of fortune. And in a way, that dream gives the coin its real power. Because when you hear that story, don't you feel a spark inside, a moment where you wonder if maybe, just maybe, one of your pennies could be the one? But let's keep our feet on the ground for a moment. In the real coin market, a 2004 penny in pristine condition, graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services, might sell for several $100s. If it has a dramatic error, the value could climb into the thousands. These are real, verifiable numbers, and they still represent a huge leap from 1 cent. That's the magic of numismatics, turning something ordinary into something extraordinary by recognizing its rarity, its story, and its place in history. Now let's imagine the journey of one of these pennies again. Picture it rolling off the press in Denver, falling into a bin with thousands of others, loaded into a truck, sent to a Federal Reserve Bank, then distributed to local banks across the country. Someone in Denver might have received it first, maybe as change from a fast food restaurant. It could have sat in a cash drawer, then traveled across the country in someone's pocket, then dropped into a tip jar, then counted and wrapped and sent to another bank. Along the way, some of these coins were noticed by sharp-eyed collectors who pulled them aside, slipped them into holders, and preserved them. Others were spent and respent until they became worn, the details of Lincoln's hair and the lines of the memorial fading away. Each penny has its own journey, its own story, and part of the fun is imagining what those stories might be. When collectors look at a 2004 penny, they don't just see a piece of money. They see the mint that made it, the engraver who designed it, the history it represents, and the possibility that this coin might not be like all the rest. They see the weight, 2.5 grams, and the copper shine, and they ask themselves if it might hold something special. They look at the edges, the surfaces, the tiny details that most people overlook. And sometimes, just sometimes, they find something extraordinary. The fascinating thing about coins is that they bridge the gap between history and everyday life. A single penny minted in 2004 connects us to decisions made by the United States Mint, to the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, to the artistry of engravers, and to the habits of millions of people who use that coin without thinking twice. When you stop and really focus on a coin, especially something as specific as the 2004 Lincoln cent, you realize that it isn't just about metal or money. It's about culture, memory, and the way small objects carry enormous meaning. Think about the weight of the coin, just 2.5 grams. It feels like nothing in your palm, a light disc you could flick across a table without effort. And yet, that 2.5 grams carries with it the story of America's economy, because the composition itself reflects larger changes. Before 1982, pennies were 95% copper, but as copper prices rose, the metal inside the coin became worth more than the coin's face value. To keep making pennies, the mint had to change. So now the core is zinc, a cheaper metal, with only a thin plating of copper to keep the familiar color. That single detail reflects the tug-of-war between tradition and economics, the struggle to maintain the look and feel of the penny while adapting to modern realities. By 2004, when the Denver Mint struck billions of these coins, that change was well established, but it still whispers to us about the cost of money, about how even the smallest denomination can be shaped by global markets. Look at the symbol on the coin. The D Mint mark is tiny, just a little letter beneath the date, but it holds huge meaning for collectors. That D tells you that this coin was made in Denver, not Philadelphia or San Francisco. For those who specialize in mint marks, it's like a secret code, a way of tracing the life of the coin back to its birthplace. Collectors love comparing D-mint coins with P-mint coins, noting small differences in strike quality, surface finish, and error frequency. To a casual spender, the mint mark might be invisible. But to the trained eye, that little D is like a key that unlocks the whole backstory of the coin. And then we come to the design itself. On the front, Lincoln's face, stoic and dignified. You can see the lines of his jaw, the beard that became his signature, the furrow of his brow. This is not just any portrait, it's one created to embody the spirit of a man who carried the nation through its darkest trial. Every time you see his profile on a coin, you're reminded that history lives in the present, carried forward in metal. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stretches across the coin. For decades, this was the image most Americans saw when they flipped a penny over. And inside that memorial, if you look closely, there's a tiny seated figure of Lincoln, a detail so fine that most people don't even notice it without magnification. The artistry required to include such micro details speaks to the craftsmanship of the engravers. Imagine the pride of Frank Gasparo, whose initials FG appear to the right of the memorial, knowing that his design would appear on billions of coins circulating across the country. Now, let's turn to value, because that's what captures the imagination. A 2004 penny in ordinary circulated condition is just that, a penny. But collectors always want to know, what about the rare ones? What about the coins that stand out? Let's explore the possibilities. Imagine finding a 2004 penny in flawless condition, fresh from the mint, never touched by human hands, with every detail sharp and every surface gleaming. A professional grading service might grade it MS67, MS68, or even higher, and such coins can fetch hundreds of dollars at auction. That's already an astonishing leap in value, turning 1 cent into enough money to fill a wallet. Now add the possibility of an error. A doubled die that makes the date look doubled, or the word liberty appear with a ghostly shadow. That could raise the value dramatically, into the thousands. An off-center strike that leaves half the coin blank? Another potential treasure. A wrong planchet error, where a penny design appears on dime metal, shining silver instead of copper? That's the kind of discovery that makes collectors' hearts race. But beyond the confirmed, real-world values, there are the legends, the wild claims that capture headlines and fuel endless speculation. Somewhere, someone posts online that a 2004 D penny sold for $123 million. Is it true? Almost certainly not. No auction house has confirmed such a sale. But the very existence of the rumor makes people look at their coins differently. They start checking their pockets, rifling through coin jars, pulling out magnifying glasses. They dream of hitting the jackpot. And while the number itself may be fantasy, the dream it sparks is real. Because what if? What if you do stumble upon a coin that everyone else missed? What if the penny in your drawer is not just ordinary pocket change but a life-changing discovery? That question is what keeps the coin hobby alive. It's not just about metal or minting. It's about the thrill of the hunt, the possibility of treasure. Collectors will spend hours sifting through rolls of pennies from the bank, one by one, hunting for that rare doubling or off-center strike. They'll invest in magnifiers, reference books, even microscopes, just to see details invisible to the naked eye. And every so often, one of them finds something amazing. A rare error coin emerges, a piece of history surfaces, and suddenly the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The 2004 D penny, with all its billions of copies, hides within it the potential for that magic moment. Imagine a collector sitting at a table late at night. A desk lamp shines on a pile of pennies, each coin flipped over, studied carefully, weighed in the hand, inspected for the tiniest signs of difference. Most are ordinary, worn and dull. But then one coin catches the light differently. Maybe the lettering looks strange, maybe the strike seems off. The collector leans closer, heart racing, magnifier in hand. Could it be? Could this be the rare variety, the kind of coin worth thousands, maybe even the mythical millions? That rush, that possibility is addictive. And it's why the legend of the 2004 D penny continues to grow. What's truly remarkable is how a story like this spreads. Someone writes an article, someone else makes a video, and soon the idea that a penny could be worth $123 million is everywhere. People share it because it's fascinating, because it defies common sense. How can something so small, so overlooked, be worth so much? The answer, of course, is that most pennies aren't. But one rare coin, one unique error, can indeed command staggering sums, and that tiny grain of truth keeps the legend alive. The market for coins is shaped by rarity, demand, and condition. For the 2004 D penny, rarity comes in the form of errors and pristine examples. Demand comes from collectors who love Lincoln Cents, one of the most popular series in American coin collecting. Condition comes from grading, the careful process of evaluating a coin's wear, strike, luster, and eye appeal. Put all those factors together, and you have a recipe for value. Even if the rumors are exaggerated, even if the myth of the $123 million penny is just that, a myth, the real value of the 2004 D penny lies in its ability to inspire curiosity, to spark a hunt, to make us look closer at the coins we take for granted every day. The penny is often dismissed as useless change, something people don't bother to pick up from the sidewalk, something cashiers slide across the counter without care, something children toss into fountains with a wish. And yet, hidden within those small coins is a universe of detail, history, and potential. The 2004 Denver minted penny is a perfect example of how a coin most people overlook can carry a story worth telling, a story that stretches from the minting presses of Colorado to the imaginations of treasure seekers across the world. To understand its significance, we need to look not just at the coin itself, but at the human fascination with rarity. Human beings are wired to seek value in the uncommon, to prize what is scarce. Billions of pennies exist, but one rare variety, one unusual strike, one mistake at the mint can turn a single coin into a prize worth fighting over. This instinct is ancient. For centuries, people have sought rare shells, rare stones, rare stamps, rare works of art. Coins fit perfectly into that instinct because they are both ordinary and extraordinary. Everyone uses them, everyone touches them, And yet within that sea of sameness, a rare specimen can shine like gold. The 2004 penny embodies this paradox. It is one of the most common coins of its year, struck in enormous numbers, circulating widely across the United States. And yet, collectors pore over them, hoping to find the one that isn't like the rest. This makes the coin almost like a lottery ticket, a small chance at a big payoff, and that chance fuels endless curiosity. That's why videos, articles, and conversations about the coin spread so quickly. People want to believe in the possibility of finding a treasure in their pocket. Now let's imagine the minting process itself, because that is where the magic happens. The Denver Mint in 2004 was a powerhouse of production. Massive machines hummed and thundered as blank planchets, the smooth discs of metal before they become coins, were fed into the presses. Dies slammed down with incredible force, imprinting Lincoln's profile on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other. Thousands of coins per minute emerged, spilling into bins, clinking and clattering, ready to be counted, packaged, and sent across the country. The precision of this process is astonishing, but no process is perfect. A slightly misaligned die, a planchet that isn't centered properly, a machine that hiccups for just a fraction of a second, that's all it takes to create an error coin. And when billions of coins are struck, even a tiny error rate produces a handful of rarities. Collectors live for those rarities. A double die can make the date look like it has a shadow. An off-center strike can make the coin look lopsided, with parts of the design missing. A die clash can leave ghostly images from the opposite die imprinted in places they shouldn't be. A wrong planchet error can make a penny appear silver instead of copper, instantly recognizable as something unusual. These variations become legends in the collecting world. They are cataloged, photographed, traded, and chased with almost obsessive intensity. And for the 2004 penny, the hunt continues, because each coin holds the possibility of surprise. What makes the penny even more fascinating is the way stories shape its value. A claim that a 2004 penny sold for $123 million may not be grounded in fact, but the story itself gives the coin a kind of mythical aura. People hear the number and immediately wonder, could it be true? Could a simple penny be worth more than a skyscraper? The imagination doesn't need confirmation, it just needs the possibility. And so the legend grows. Whether or not such a sale ever occurred doesn't matter as much as the dream it creates. Because for every person who hears that story, there's the thought, maybe I have one too. This is the same psychology that fuels treasure hunts, lotteries, and myths of lost gold. It's the idea that fortune might come not through endless labor, but through discovery, through being the one lucky person to stumble across something extraordinary. And with coins, that dream is accessible. You don't need to dig through mountains or dive to the bottom of the ocean. You just need to check your change, to look closely at what you already have. The barrier to entry is almost non-existent, and that's why the legend of valuable pennies resonates so strongly. In truth, the real value of the 2004 penny lies not only in error coins or high-grade specimens, but in the way it connects people to history. Every coin is a time capsule. The date 2004 marks a moment in the nation's story. What was happening that year? The United States was in the early years of the new millennium. Technology was booming, wars were ongoing, politics were shifting. And yet, through it all, billions of tiny coins were minted, carrying Lincoln's face as they had for nearly a century. People bought coffee with them, paid tolls with them, tossed them into jars. Each penny was a witness to daily life. And among them, the Denver minted coins carried the little d that silently marked their origin. For collectors, that D is a gateway to deeper questions. How many coins were minted in Denver that year? What dies were used? What varieties exist? The answers fill catalogs, reference books, and collector forums. Enthusiasts debate tiny differences, post photographs, compare notes, and sometimes make discoveries that reshape the field. Perhaps one day, someone will find a previously unknown variety of the 2004 penny, something no one else has documented. That possibility keeps collectors engaged, year after year, always looking closer, always searching, Even for those who aren't collectors, there is something magical about holding a coin and realizing it might be special. Imagine a person emptying their pockets at the end of the day, dumping loose change onto a dresser. Their eye catches on a penny that looks slightly off. Maybe the strike isn't centered, maybe the shine is unusually bright. They pick it up, curious, and begin to wonder. They search online, discovering videos and articles claiming that such coins can be worth incredible sums. Their curiosity grows, and they begin to check every coin more carefully. Suddenly, what was once ignored becomes fascinating. The world of numismatics opens before them, all because of a single penny. This is the power of coins like the 2004 D penny. They spark curiosity, they ignite imagination, and they connect the everyday with the extraordinary. Whether the coin in your hand is worth 1 cent or $100,000, the act of looking, of caring, of paying attention transforms it. The story becomes larger than the object, and the penny becomes a symbol of possibility. Coins don't just exist as currency, they exist as storytellers. Each one is a messenger from a particular time and place, a tiny piece of history that slipped into our pockets and traveled with us through our lives. The 2004 Denver minted penny is one such storyteller, whispering about the minting process, about the face of Lincoln, about the city of Denver where it was born, and about the countless hands it may have passed through. But what keeps the 2004 D penny alive in conversation isn't just its design or its circulation. It's the powerful combination of myth and possibility. When people hear about a penny being worth $123 million, even if that number is more rumor than reality, they lean in. They imagine what it would mean to stumble across such a coin. They picture the life-changing moment when a simple penny becomes a fortune beyond imagination. It is almost like a modern fairy tale, a story where the smallest object holds the greatest treasure. That is why the legend of the 2004 D penny spreads so easily. It taps into a human longing for discovery, for luck, for a moment of transformation that takes the ordinary and makes it extraordinary. And yet, while the extreme stories grab the headlines, the real coin market tells its own fascinating tale. When professional graders at companies like PCGS or NGC examine a 2004 D penny, they look closely at every detail. They check the strike, the luster, the surfaces. A coin graded MS65 might be worth only a few dollars, but push that grade higher, to MS67 or MS68, and suddenly you're talking about hundreds of dollars. In the world of coins, condition is everything. 2 pennies struck on the very same day at the very same mint can have vastly different values depending on how well they were struck and how carefully they were preserved. That's what makes uncirculated examples so prized. While billions of pennies entered circulation in 2004, only a fraction survived in pristine, untouched condition. Those survivors become treasures not because of errors, but because of their sheer perfection. Still, error coins hold a special place in collectors' hearts. They are the quirks, the oddities, the one-of-a-kind accidents that turn a familiar design into something new. For the 2004 D penny, known varieties include off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait seems pushed to the edge, broad strikes where the rim is missing, and coins struck on the wrong planchet. Each type tells its own story. Off-center coins show us how a small misalignment can create something entirely different. Broad strikes remind us that even the powerful machines of the mint sometimes falter. Wrong planchet coins feel almost magical, as if the wrong piece of metal slipped into the process by fate. Collectors see these not as flaws but as unique fingerprints, and they pay accordingly. To put this into perspective, think about other famous pennies. The 1943 copper penny, struck when pennies were supposed to be made of steel during World War II, is legendary. Only a few exist, but those few have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then there's the 1955 double-die penny, where the date and lettering appear doubled so dramatically that even the untrained eye can spot it. That coin has achieved near-mythic status in numismatics, with collectors willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars for top examples. These famous coins set the stage for the legend of the 2004 D penny. If earlier cents can achieve such high values, why not a modern one under the right circumstances? The imagination fills in the rest, and soon you have claims of astronomical worth circulating online. the Denver Mint itself adds another layer to the story. For more than a century, it has been one of the most important coin-producing facilities in the world. Every day in 2004, millions of coins left its presses, including pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and more. The workers there may not have thought much about the 2004 penny as they oversaw the machines, but unknowingly, they were creating the very coins that would fuel legends. Some of those coins slipped out into the world with errors, some remained pristine, and some would eventually find their way into the hands of collectors who would treasure them forever. The psychology of collecting also plays a role in the fascination with coins like this. Collectors are driven by the thrill of the hunt, the desire to find something rare, the satisfaction of adding a piece to their collection that others don't have. But they are also driven by stories. The story of a penny worth millions excites the imagination, even if the actual market values are much lower. Stories create energy, energy creates interest, and interest sustains the market. Without stories, coins are just metal. With stories, they become treasure. Now imagine the market as it might unfold. A collector posts an image of a strange 2004 penny online. Other collectors debate whether it's a doubled die, a strike error, or something new. The conversation spreads, people share it, and suddenly, there's demand for that variety. Prices climb as collectors chase after it, and the legend grows. This is how markets evolve, not just through rarity, but through recognition. A coin becomes famous because people talk about it, and once it's famous, it becomes more valuable. The 2004 penny sits at the center of this cycle, always ready to inspire the next story, the next rumor, the next discovery. Even those who never collect coins are touched by this fascination. Parents tell their children to check their pennies. Friends share viral posts about valuable coins. Suddenly, ordinary people are looking more closely at their change. This renewed attention breathes life into the world of numismatics. The 2004 penny becomes not just a coin but an invitation to pay attention, to notice details, to connect with history in the palm of your hand. The truth is, most 2004 pennies will never be worth more than face value. But that doesn't make them worthless. They are valuable because they spark curiosity, because they keep alive the tradition of coin collecting, because they make people dream. The real worth of a coin is not always in dollars, but in the stories it tells and the inspiration it gives. And so the 2004 penny continues to circulate, both in our change and in our imagination, as a reminder that even the smallest things can carry the greatest meaning. Picture for a moment the life of a single 2004 penny. It begins as a blank planchet, a smooth round disc of zinc with a thin copper coating, waiting in line to be transformed. In the Denver Mint, machines roar with relentless energy. Thousands of planchets are shaken, sorted, and fed into massive presses. The dies descend with crushing force, striking the image of Lincoln onto the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial onto the reverse. In that instant, the blank becomes a coin, an official piece of U.S. currency, ready to enter circulation. Our penny clinks into a bin with countless others, indistinguishable from the rest, and yet perhaps destined for a unique path. From there, it travels into paper-wrapped rolls, shipped to banks, then distributed into the economy. A cashier cracks open a roll and pours the coins into a register drawer. Our penny finds itself passed as change for a morning coffee, dropped into a customer's pocket, then jingling alongside quarters and dimes as the person walks down a busy street. Hours later, that same penny is exchanged again, maybe for bus fare or a vending machine purchase. Each transaction is so ordinary, so unremarkable, and yet, at every moment, the coin is silently carrying its details: the date 2004, the mint mark D, the inscriptions, the history of Lincoln's image. It is just one among billions, and yet every collector knows that among the billions, some stand apart. Perhaps this particular coin is flawless, struck with perfect pressure, sharp in every detail, unscathed by circulation. If so, its value may one day be recognized by a grader, encased in plastic, labeled MS-67 or MS-68, and sold at auction for hundreds of dollars. Or perhaps, in a twist of fate, this coin was struck slightly off-center, leaving Lincoln's face pushed to one side. Maybe the strike doubled the word liberty, leaving a ghostly second image. Maybe it was even struck on the wrong planchet, creating a coin that looks unlike any ordinary penny. In such cases, the same coin that once bought a stick of gum could become a treasure worth thousands. That is the magic of numismatics, the transformation of the ordinary into the extraordinary through the smallest variations. Collectors chase this magic with a passion that outsiders sometimes find hard to understand. But think of it this way: every collector is a detective. They search for clues in metal, examining the tiniest lines, the smallest errors, the faintest doubling. They compare weights, study surfaces, analyze mint marks. Their tools may be simple: a magnifying glass, a lamp, a reference book, but their dedication is enormous. And every time they find something rare, they know they are holding a piece of history that is both unique and valuable. For the 2004 penny, this detective work is ongoing. Even today, collectors search bank rolls, pour out jars of change, and skim through thousands of coins, hoping to spot the one that stands apart. What's remarkable is how a coin like this can inspire not just collectors but ordinary people. Imagine a family sitting at the kitchen table. A child has heard about valuable pennies from a friend at school. Together, they dump out a jar of coins and start looking through them. At first it feels like a game, but as they go, they learn. They notice dates, mint marks, designs. They realize that each coin is different, that there is history in every piece. And then, maybe, they find a 2004 penny that looks a little unusual. Maybe it has a slight doubling, maybe the color seems off. Suddenly, they are hooked. That one coin sparks curiosity, curiosity becomes research, and research becomes a new hobby. This is how legends like the $123 million penny keep spreading, not because the number is real, but because the dream it represents inspires people to look closer. Now, let's return to that legendary figure, $123 million. To many, it sounds absurd. How could a penny be worth more than the most expensive mansions, more than rare paintings, more than private jets? And yet, it is precisely that absurdity that makes the story so powerful. Humans love extremes. We love hearing about the rarest, the most expensive, the most unbelievable examples. Even though the real market values of 2004 pennies are in the hundreds or thousands, the myth of a coin worth 9 figures captures imaginations in a way that plain truth never could. It becomes a modern fable, a story we tell not because it is fact but because it is fascinating. But let's not forget that there is truth behind the myth. Rare pennies really do sell for staggering amounts. The 1943 bronze cent, an accidental survivor when pennies were supposed to be struck in steel, has sold for over $1 million at auction. The 1793 chain cent, one of the very first U.S. pennies ever made, has fetched six-figure sums. The 1955 double die cent, with its dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye, remains a collector's dream, worth thousands even in worn condition. These real stories lend credibility to the legend of the 2004 penny. They prove that a coin can, under the right circumstances, be worth far more than its face value. What those stories also prove is that coins are more than money. They are artifacts. They are art. They are history. And the 2004 penny, though common in one sense, is rare in another. It carries with it the weight of Lincoln's legacy, the craftsmanship of engravers, the power of the minting machines, and the journeys it has taken through human hands. For every collector who holds one, the coin is not just copper and zinc. It is a link to a larger story, one that stretches back to 1909 when Lincoln first appeared on the cent, and even further back to the nation's earliest coinage. As you listen to this story, you may be tempted to check your own change. Maybe there's a jar of coins on your dresser, maybe a handful of pennies at the bottom of your bag. Maybe, just maybe, a 2004 penny sits among them, waiting for you to notice it. Maybe it is ordinary, worth only a cent. But maybe it carries a hidden detail, a small error, a flawless strike, a sign that sets it apart. That possibility is the heartbeat of this story. It's not the guarantee of riches, but the hope of discovery. It's the idea that treasure might already be in your hands, if only you look closely enough, And that's why the 2004 penny will always be more than just pocket change. It will always be a coin of possibility, a coin of legend, a coin that reminds us that even the smallest, lightest, most overlooked things can carry within them stories worth millions. Every collector knows that the world of coins is not just about metal and money, it is about human stories tied to each piece. The 2004 penny is one of those coins that blends the ordinary and the extraordinary so seamlessly that you never quite know which side of the line you're standing on. On one hand, billions were minted, spilled into circulation, spent at gas stations, grocery stores, and parking meters. On the other hand, hidden among those billions are coins with traits so unusual, so distinctive, that their market value skyrockets. That's the paradox of the 2004 cent. It is common, but it can also be priceless. When we talk about rarity, it's not always about the number of coins struck. Sometimes it's about survival, sometimes it's about condition, and sometimes it's about accidents. For the 2004 penny, survival in pristine state is rare enough. The vast majority went straight into circulation, where scratches, nicks, and dulling reduced their quality. Those few that escaped into rolls tucked away in drawers or bank boxes, untouched by human hands, are the ones that can dazzle collectors. A gem mint state penny, glowing with red luster, can feel more like jewelry than currency. Add an error on top of that, and suddenly you have something that collectors will fight over. Think about what happens at auction when one of these coins appears. The room fills with anticipation, bidders wait with paddles ready or sit behind computer screens logged into live bidding platforms. The auctioneer's voice rises with each new bid, the price climbing higher than anyone thought possible. By the time the hammer falls, a penny that cost the government less than 2 cents to make has sold for thousands. The crowd murmurs, the winner smiles, and the legend of the coin grows. Each sale becomes another chapter in the story, another reason for people to check their pockets, another push for collectors to keep searching. But what really sets the 2004 penny apart is not just its physical form, it is the face it carries. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, has graced the cent since 1909. No other figure in U.S. history has been on a coin for so long. Over a century later, his profile remains instantly recognizable. Every penny, no matter the year, carries the weight of Lincoln's legacy: leadership through Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, the preservation of the Union. When you hold a 2004 penny, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a symbol of endurance, a miniature monument to one of the most significant figures in American history. That gives the coin a cultural power that far outweighs its face value. Collectors know this. They feel it every time they look at Lincoln's face under magnification, every time they read the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date beneath him. The reverse design of the Lincoln Memorial, used from 1959 to 2008, adds another layer of symbolism. Millions of visitors have walked those marble steps in Washington, D.C., staring up at the statue of Lincoln inside. To see that building captured on the reverse of a penny reminds us of how coins carry national identity. It is not just copper-plated zinc, it is a piece of American memory small enough to fit in your hand. This is why stories of astronomical value, like the claim of a $123 million 2004 penny, strike such a chord. Even though seasoned collectors know the figure is exaggerated, the idea resonates because people understand that these coins mean more than money. They are about history, identity, and chance. The figure may not be realistic, but it plants a seed of possibility, and possibility is what drives collectors forward. After all, someone once thought a 1943 copper penny was worthless, until it sold for over $1 million. Someone once dismissed the 1955 doubled die as an odd curiosity, until it became one of the most famous coins in American history. Who is to say what stories the 2004 penny may hold in the future? The truth is, coin markets are living, breathing things. Values shift as interest rises and falls. A coin that sells for a modest price today might be worth far more tomorrow if demand spikes. All it takes is one major discovery, one dramatic auction result, one news story going viral, and suddenly, the market is transformed. The 2004 penny already has the seeds of such transformation. Its sheer numbers ensure that people will keep looking. Its connection to Lincoln ensures that it will always be culturally significant. Its potential for errors ensures that surprises will continue to appear. And its myth of extreme value keeps it in the spotlight. All of these combine into a recipe for enduring fascination. And it's not just about investors or seasoned collectors. The charm of this penny lies in how accessible it is. Unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums or silver dollars that cost hundreds just to begin collecting, the 2004 penny is something anyone can find. It might be sitting in a child's piggy bank, or in a change jar on the counter, or in the drawer of an old desk. That accessibility is what makes it magical. Every person has the chance, however small, to stumble across something special. Every person can feel like a treasure hunter, armed with nothing more than curiosity and a handful of coins. Consider for a moment how many eyes have passed over a 2004 penny without noticing it. How many times it has been exchanged for a bus ride, for a candy bar, for a tip left on a counter. How many of those moments might have been the passing of a coin worth far more than anyone realized. That is the quiet poetry of numismatics. The idea that treasures often go unnoticed, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right person to recognize them. And that is why collectors never stop searching. So as the legend of the 2004 penny continues to grow, it is not just about one coin or one value. It is about the larger truth that coins connect us to history, to luck, to stories that outlast us. Whether a penny is worth 1 cent, $100, or 100 million, the act of looking at it, studying it, and wondering about it already gives it worth beyond measure. That is why people keep watching, keep listening, and keep searching. Because somewhere out there, maybe in the palm of your hand right now, the next legendary coin might already be waiting. Imagine a story told around a dinner table, where a grandfather leans back in his chair, reaches into his pocket, and pulls out a penny. To the untrained eye, it's just a coin, dated 2004 with AD beneath the date. But to him, it's a reminder of how something ordinary can become extraordinary. He tells his grandchildren how, years ago, he read about a penny found in change that turned out to be worth thousands, how that story inspired him to start looking more closely, and how he discovered errors in coins most people ignored. His grandchildren leaned closer, their curiosity sparked, and in that moment a new generation of collectors is born. That is how legends like the 2004 penny live on, not just in auctions or catalogs, but in families, conversations, and memories passed down. Every collector has a story of discovery, and many begin with coins like this. Take the tale of a young man who stopped at a gas station, bought a snack, and received change. Among the coins was a shiny 2004 penny. Something about it looked different, the lettering seemed doubled. He set it aside, later compared it with others, and realized he had stumbled upon a doubled die. When he submitted it to a grading service, the coin came back certified as a genuine error. What he once thought was pocket change became a piece that sold for hundreds of dollars online. Stories like this ripple through collecting communities, fueling hope and excitement. Or think of the schoolteacher who used coins in her classroom to teach math. She asked her students to sort pennies by date, turning the exercise into a fun game. While checking the piles, she noticed a 2004 with a strikingly off-center design. She kept it, researched it, and discovered it was an error worth far more than its face value. What started as a classroom activity turned into her first step into the world of coin collecting. From that day on, she was hooked, attending coin shows, reading guides, and sharing her passion with others. That single coin changed not just her pocketbook, but her entire hobby. This is the magnetism of coins, and especially of coins like the 2004 penny. They bridge the gap between ordinary people and extraordinary stories. Most of us will never own ancient treasures or gold bars, but we all have coins in our pockets. We all interact with money daily, and that means we all have the chance, however slim, of finding something special. That chance is what keeps the hunt alive, what keeps the 2004 penny at the center of so many conversations, and what makes claims of it being worth hundreds of millions so captivating, even when exaggerated. But beyond the personal stories, there is also the collective story. In 2004, America was reflecting on its past while stepping into a new century. The Lincoln cent, unchanged in design since 1959, was still anchoring the nation's coinage. The Denver Mint struck billions of cents, each carrying Lincoln's profile, each destined to circulate across the country. At the time, no one thought these coins would spark legends of great fortune. They were simply tools of daily commerce. Yet history has a way of surprising us. What starts as routine can later become rare. What begins as ordinary can later be extraordinary. The market itself is a fascinating ecosystem. Collectors, dealers, graders, and casual hobbyists all play a role. When a rare 2004 D-era surfaces, it is often dealers who recognize its importance first. They spread the word, feature it in catalogs, list it at auction. Collectors compete for it, driving the price higher. That transaction adds to the coin's story, solidifies its place in the market, and raises awareness for others to search their own coins. Slowly, the cycle repeats. The more stories circulate, the more people look. The more people look, the more discoveries are made. And every discovery adds fuel to the legend. It's important to understand that even though not every 2004 D penny is worth more than a cent, the coin itself is still a gateway. It is an invitation into numismatics, into a world where patience, curiosity, and attention to detail can transform pocket change into treasures. Every time someone examines a penny closely, they are practicing the skills of observation and critical thinking. They are connecting with history in a tangible way. They are becoming part of a community that stretches across generations and around the world. And what about that mythical $123 million valuation? While it may never reflect real market numbers, it plays its role. It's the spark that draws attention, the headline that makes people stop scrolling, the rumor that makes someone reach for their coin jar. Legends do not need to be true to be powerful. They only need to inspire action. And in the case of the 2004 D penny, that legend keeps inspiring millions to look closer, to wonder, and to dream. The dream is what keeps collectors awake at night, imagining the thrill of holding a coin that others overlooked, a coin that proves their diligence was worth it. And whether that dream comes true through a 2004 D penny, a 1943 bronze cent, or a 1955 double die, it remains one of the most powerful forces in numismatics. The dream is the heartbeat of collecting. So as you hear these stories, imagine your own. Imagine emptying your pocket and finding a penny that glows just a little brighter, that looks just a little different. Imagine researching it, learning its history, and realizing you've uncovered something rare. Imagine the rush of showing it to a dealer, hearing their confirmation, and watching the value rise before your eyes. That journey could start today, with a single coin, with a single 2004 D penny, resting unnoticed in your change. Auctions are the stage where coins transform from pocket change into legendary treasures. Picture a room filled with anticipation, the air thick with the weight of history and possibility. Collectors, dealers, and investors gather, some in person, others online, all waiting for that moment when a simple coin crosses the block and ignites a battle of wills. When a 2004 D penny with a rare error appears at auction, it isn't just a transaction, it is a spectacle. The coin is presented under bright lights, its details magnified on large screens, every imperfection, every unique trait displayed like a crown jewel. The auctioneer begins, the opening bid is placed, and suddenly hands rise, paddles lift, numbers climb. With each call, the value soars higher, and the ordinary penny becomes extraordinary. Collectors know that auctions are not only about winning, they are about legacy. Each sale sets a benchmark, a record that will echo through the numismatic world. When a coin sells for thousands, tens of thousands, or more, it becomes more than an object, it becomes a symbol of desire, rarity, and triumph. And though most 2004 D pennies will never see such stages, the possibility remains that one might, perhaps because of an astonishing error or a pristine state of preservation. That whisper of possibility is enough to electrify the room, to make hearts pound, to make dreams seem within reach. Think of the stories that precede these moments. A coin once spent at a corner store, unnoticed for years, rediscovered in a coin jar, then authenticated and transformed into a headline-worthy treasure. The journey itself adds to its value. Every nick, every detail carries a story of circulation and survival. And when collectors bid, they are not only bidding on the metal in front of them, they are bidding on the story, the myth, and the bragging rights that come with owning something others overlooked. Now imagine the crowd when whispers spread about a 2004 penny tied to a claim of being worth $123 million. The rumor alone draws attention. Cameras flash, articles are written, discussions ripple across online forums and social media. The actual coin may not carry that astronomical value, but the fascination surrounding it elevates its importance. Collectors know they are participating in something more than commerce. They are participating in history being written in real time. The legend grows with each retelling, until the coin is no longer just a penny, but a phenomenon. What's fascinating is that auctions often spark new interest in coins that had previously gone unnoticed. A record sale of one variety can suddenly send collectors rushing to examine their own coins. When one 2004 penny with an unusual feature makes waves, thousands of people check their change, search through rolls, and open dusty boxes. Dealers report spikes in demand, grading services see surges in submissions, and the humble penny once again dominates headlines. This ripple effect keeps the cycle alive, ensuring that the coin remains more than just currency. It's worth remembering that some of the greatest discoveries in numismatics began with ordinary people who simply looked a little closer. A teenager who checked a handful of pennies found one worth thousands. A retiree sorting through a jar discovered an error that shocked experts. A collector with modest means uncovered a variety that added a new chapter to coin history. These stories fuel the mythos of coins like the 2004 penny. They remind us that even if most are common, the possibility of rarity makes every single one worth examining. In the dim light of an auction hall, as the bidding intensifies and the crowd leans forward, the power of that possibility becomes clear. A small copper-colored disc, weighing just 2.5 grams, becomes the center of attention, commanding prices beyond imagination. The auctioneer's chant grows faster, the bidders more determined, until finally the gavel strikes and a new owner claims the prize. Applause follows, and in that moment, the legend expands. The story will be retold, the record cited, and the 2004 penny, once an afterthought of circulation, becomes immortal in the eyes of collectors. The truth is that markets are emotional. Value is not fixed, it is a dance between desire and rarity, between history and myth. The 2004 penny embodies this perfectly. It is both plentiful and rare, both mundane and magical. Its worth is shaped not only by the zinc and copper in its body, but by the stories we attach to it, the dreams we project onto it, and the excitement it generates in every person who hears about it, and so the story continues. Each new discovery adds fuel to the fire, each new rumor sparks curiosity, each new sale writes another chapter. The 2004 penny, small and unassuming, sits at the crossroads of fact and fantasy, history and hope. Whether it is truly worth 1 cent or 100 million, it has already achieved something more valuable. It has captured the imagination of the world. Collecting is not just about money, not just about numbers printed in auction catalogs or headlines shouting $1,000,000 sales. It is about connection. Every coin we hold has passed through countless hands, carrying with it unspoken stories, silent journeys, and invisible histories. The 2004 penny, so small, so ordinary, becomes extraordinary because of what we see in it, what we project onto it, and what we dream it might become. In every collection, from the smallest box under a child's bed to the largest vault in a museum, lies that same heartbeat, the pursuit of meaning through metal and memory. The thrill of the hunt drives us forward. You search your change, roll after roll, coin after coin, your eyes straining for a doubled letter, a misaligned strike, a gleam of perfection untouched by time. The joy comes not just from the find, but from the chase, the ritual of searching, the quiet moments of discovery. Every 2004 penny examined adds to the story. Every one set aside represents another chance that lightning might strike. It is patience rewarded, curiosity ignited, hope sustained, and then there is obsession. Collectors know it well: the late nights reading about varieties, the weekends spent at shows, the endless scrolling through auction listings, the excitement of spotting something no one else has noticed. The 2004 penny fuels this obsession because it straddles the line between common and rare, between worthless and priceless. You could have a handful worth only face value, or you could hold the key to a legend. That uncertainty, that balance between fact and possibility, is what keeps minds turning and hearts racing. But alongside the thrill and obsession comes heartbreak. Coins are small, fragile, and easy to overlook. A priceless error might be spent at a grocery store without ever being noticed. A rare variety might sit unrecognized in a jar for decades, lost to time. Many collectors know the sting of realizing a coin slipped through their fingers, or the regret of selling too soon, or the frustration of learning a treasured piece was not as rare as they once believed. And yet, even in heartbreak, the journey is worthwhile. Because every mistake teaches, every loss strengthens, and every disappointment makes the next discovery even sweeter. The 2004 penny embodies all of this: the thrill, the obsession, the heartbreak, the dream. It is more than zinc and copper. It is a mirror reflecting the spirit of those who search for meaning in the smallest corners of history. It is a symbol of hope that ordinary things can hide extraordinary secrets. It is proof that treasures need not be made of gold to capture the world's imagination. And so we return to the claim, the legend, the whisper that one of these coins could be worth $123 million. Whether fact or fantasy, whether truth or tale, that number no longer matters. What matters is the way it makes you feel when you hear it. It makes you pause. It makes you wonder. It makes you reach for your pocket, glance at your change, tilt a coin toward the light, and look closer. That moment of wonder is priceless. That spark of curiosity is the real treasure. Imagine years from now, you tell your own story. Maybe you found a 2004 penny with a rare error. Maybe you discovered one in pristine condition. Maybe you never found anything worth more than face value at all. But you will remember the time you spent searching, the knowledge you gained, the excitement you felt, and the community you joined. You will remember how one simple penny made you look closer, think deeper, dream bigger. And in that way, the coin has already given you more than money could be. So as this story draws to a close, remember this: the value of the 2004 penny is not only in the marketplace, not only in auction records or whispered legends. Its true value is in the hope it inspires, the journeys it sparks, and the lives it touches. Every coin has a story, and this one has become a legend not because of what it is, but because of what it means. The next time you hold a penny, let it remind you of possibility. Let it remind you that treasures hide in plain sight. Let it remind you that history is all around you, waiting to be discovered. And above all, let it remind you that sometimes the smallest things can hold the biggest dreams.